Welcome to Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebes or plebs. Drop us a like, subscribe. Joining us today, fellow Bitcoiner, the creator of the SeedSigner. And he's going to jump in on the fun a little bit later, but for now, you know where we're going. We're going to the numbers.
Number time.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 698,431, the Bitcoin price 47,305, chain rewrite days 893, total public lightning capacity 2,346.43 sats per dollar, 2,112, and the blocks to the halving 141,569. Even the Lightning Network is kind of sitting around at the top, right? You know, it peaked up. We got to the 2,360s, I believe, and now we're just like nice and flat, kind of resting on our laurels. You know,
why are people closing channels, man?
Well, we don't know that they're closing channels.
What's going on?
But that is a good point, actually. You know what? Maybe they are closing channels. Maybe they're closing channels, getting ready to open new ones. This is what's cool about the Lightning Network, though, you know? Because if you think about it, the channels that you open, you don't really have to have them open permanently. You only need them for the time of the transactions. So, I mean, of course, unless you want to be a public routing node and you want to, add liquidity to the network as a whole, then, of course, you leave all your channels open and then you try to connect up to the big boys and, you both have some nice big channels, right? At least, at least a million sats in each, or something like that.
It's funny because we don't speculate on the price, but we definitely speculate on the Lightning Network capacity.
Yes, we speculate on the Lightning capacity, on the public Lightning capacity, and we speculate on the Lightning Network growth. Okay?
Yeah.
That's right.
It's going to 10x from here, Phil. I could feel it.
But you know what? One thing we don't do, we do not have a special formula. We don't have any charts. And when we do show charts about it, we don't really know what they're talking about. So,
man, at least
they look good, right? The number's going up to the right, so hey.
Look, at least we're honest compared to all the shitcoin channels that they sell hopium instead because they have no fucking idea where the price is going either, right?
Nico, apparently we make some other podcasters look like Einstein. I'm just saying, and you know what? I appreciate that because, like I said in the tweet, when your first go-to is to insult someone's intelligence, that means you have absolutely nothing against their points. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
it's
cry harder.
They went straight to the character. they went straight to the character attacks, man. That's interesting. Yep. Now I'm seeing it. But anyways,
okay, and yeah,
Phil.
It's okay, we'll stop.
Phil, it's time for
the daily fail. All right, guys, this is another ETH fail. Let's dive into this one. This is C.R.E.A.M. It's a good name, right? It's pretty funny. Anyways.
What did I tell you about the shitcoiners and their names, bro?
Huh?
Shitcoiners are phenomenal at names. They're great
fantastic.
At names. They're great at names. It's insane.
It's funny. All right, here we go, man. Here we go. This is going to be, anyways, let's do it. When BTC goes down and drags ETH with it, look at it as your buying opportunity, in my opinion. Here we go. This is the good part of this. Eventually, this has to decouple. I remember in 2017, we were waiting for the flippening. Okay? We were waiting for the flippening. We are going to start to see more gains in ETH than BTC, in my opinion, as we see continued usage that far exceeds BTC as we get closer to proof of stake. Okay? So, I mean, look. Obviously, it's just absolutely ridiculous, okay? This whole notion, okay, that ETH is providing value. I mean, you know what we can do? We can actually just kind of bump right over here just for a quick second, okay? I'm gonna take a look. Yeah, because you know what just happened, right?
The names, bro.
The names. So for the people, for the people who don't know, I mean that acronym, at least from when I was a kid, means cash rules everything around me. So, which is kind of ironic, right? Because it's called C.R.E.A.M Finance, but yet they've been scammed with crypto and it's not like cash. So anyways, digress. C.R.E.A.M Finance suffers $28 million flash loan hack. we're going to start to see more gains in ETH than BTC. Huh.
The continued usage is the rug pulls.
It is the rug pull. I find it funny, right? Like they sit there and they're like, oh yeah, this is useful. This is great. Really? How many rug pulls do we have on Bitcoin?
None.
Now there's the sound of birds chirping, waiting. Anyways, here we go. C.R.E.A.M Finance, a Taipei-based decentralized lending platform for individuals, institutions, and protocols to access financial services, has suffered a flash loan exploit that led to a loss of about $28 million US, underlining the potential vulnerabilities of decentralized finance mechanisms. No, not decentralized finance mechanisms. Centralized finance mechanisms with a random word like decentralization put in there. That's all it is. It's just added a word. Just because you say it's decentralized doesn't make it decentralized. Anyways, fast facts. C.R.E.A.M tweeted on Monday that its market on Ethereum suffered an exploit, resulting in a loss of 418 million in AMP and 1.3 million in ETH by way of reentrancy on the AMP token contract. That loss was equivalent to 28 million at the time of the recording. Okay, so the hacker was able to make a 500 Ethereum flash loan, which was used to exploit a reentrancy bug, which we just read, okay, found in the Flex network contract. Flash loans are under-collateralized loans that are borrowed and returned within the same transaction. So this kind of sounds like credit default swaps on steroids made by children. Like, no joke, that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, anyways, teach their own. You want to lose money? You want to lose it quick? Have fun with this stuff. Anyways, back to our back to the original story. I just wanted to dive in a little bit about the, like what that actually was. Anyways, C.R.E.A.M said that it had stopped the exploit by pausing supply and borrow on AMP and that no other markets were affected. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up with this. Also this month, Japanese crypto exchange Liquid suffered a loss of over $90 million, which we reported last week, in an attack, which siphoned Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tron, that's funny, I haven't heard Tron in like 3 years, and XRP from the exchange. Liquid obtained a US $120 million loan from fellow exchange FTX to cover the losses. And we go back to this. We're going to start to see more gains in ETH than BTC as we continue usage that far exceeds BTC. Flash loans. Exchanges that blow up. We've got the wrecked leaderboard showing you company after company. That's right. They're not just decentralized tokens, okay? They're just companies showing you one after another of a rug pull. Millions of dollars down the tube. Don't get fooled by this. This is absolute nonsense.
Man, the ETH heads, like I call them, like you're absolutely right. Like they don't understand, right? The way that I see Bitcoin, right, is that it's going to enable essentially the separation of money from state, right? And only Bitcoin has sufficient hash rate to pull that off, right? Because the hash rate really represents, the energy cost that it would take a potential hacker, right, or a potential attacker, right? And, it's funny because he mentions proof of stake in that tweet too, as if, that's a good thing. In fact, the proof of stake system, the way that I see it, Phil, it's just another iteration of the system that we have now, right? One of the innovations of Bitcoin was separating the monetary policy out of the hands of humans, right? Proof of stake is literally putting the monetary policy in the people that have the most amount of coins. What does that remind you of? Right. So, ETH heads don't understand, they buy into the technology narrative, but they don't understand that the most important thing is decentralization. Right. And proof of stake is a step backwards, not a step forwards, and I think you were completely right on the smart contract, man. Listen, smart contracts, they like to present themselves as unhackable, decentralized, but in reality, the developers of that said smart contract are essentially the gods. They get to make the rules, and this is why these rug pulls keep happening. And you saw Vitalik reacting to Jack Dorsey, essentially trying to build another layer on top of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin offers a very simple solution, which is multi-sig. You know, you either have the keys or you don't have the keys, right? Smart contracts don't work that way, right? So anyways, I'm going to be quiet. I want to get our guest's opinion on this. Mr. SeedSigner.
Yes, sir. So a couple thoughts. The first thought was the word over financialization. And it's just like layers of contracts and mechanisms on top of the base money that, you know, I'm not an expert in finance, but it just seems like the main goal is just to facilitate more leverage that people are going to abuse over time, and it's going to cause problems. What I love about Bitcoin is that it democratizes money in such a way that everyone has access to the base protocol, the bottom layer upon which everything else is built. So you don't have to interact with any financial institutions that you wouldn't choose to, using any of these kind of mechanisms that you wouldn't want to be involved in. So like, yeah, over financialization is what comes to mind.
Absolutely. And I think you're spot on in the sense that, you know, Bitcoin is unique in that, you know, you could hold 1 million Bitcoin, and, you know, someone that has 1 Bitcoin, you guys have the same amount of power over the network, right? And, you know, the Ethereum sees this as like they're regressing. They want to move back to a proof of stake system where the people that have the most amount of Ethereum, which are going to be the exchanges, which is why the exchanges are, you know, so fascinated on the proof of stake or whatever model. So, you know, it's a step backwards, because it's essentially it's another iteration of the system we have now. You know, proof of work was the innovation. Phil?
I just want to finish. I just want to close this out, you know, with the, you know, this whole thing about, you know, ETH versus BTC. And I find that people do some very interesting things. So first of all, Ethereum is not actual competition to Bitcoin. Okay, that's the first thing. All right, we've already explained it, right? The smart contracts, we've already explained the supply caps. Everybody can listen to every single episode that we have where we explain all of this. Okay, they don't have a supply cap. You can't figure out what their total supply is, the pre-mine. But the other piece to this, okay, the other piece to this is quite simple, okay, is that Ethereum, oh man, I hate that. I just lost it. Okay, with the thing about Ethereum, okay, is that people get sucked into the unit bias, okay? And they sit there and they think like, oh my God, look how much more it's grown and this and that. Okay, so you know what? Why don't we go and divide, right? Divide the market cap of Ethereum by the 21 million. It's very simple. Divide both market caps. Since, you know, people like to play with numbers, this is all that matters to them, and, you know, it's all that, you know, who cares? Okay, fine. So let's do that. Divide the number of Ethereum by 21 million. And you'll see that you're not even worth half of a Bitcoin, okay? And then if you actually put ETH on the Bitcoin chart, it's never gone above, I think, what was it, like 12% of a Bitcoin? That's the most it was ever worth at its biggest hype. So people focus on this fiat number and they think that it matters. You're misunderstanding the point of better money, okay? That's what's happening. The point about better money is being lost on the shitcoining. Anyways.
No, you're absolutely right, man. If and this is what SeedSigner said earlier on, right? Your unit of account has to be Bitcoin, but I know that Eunice bias is strong, and this is exactly why we have to transition to Satoshi's already. You know, it just needs to, you know, I know Cash App has already took the initiative, right? We just need to move that quicker. But anyways, Phil, it's time for it.
The Daily Meme Review, sponsored by
Citadel 21. All right, everybody, the meme for today is brought to us by a fellow plebe. You can go follow him at 21_Blake_ and based. And it's a tweet of Samson Mao. In video games, if you go in a certain direction and encounter no opponents, it means you're going the wrong way. Keep it up, Nayib Bukele. And it's Nayib Bukele. I think this was like the first, you know, Bitcoin press conference. And just to kind of give you some reference, guys, on essentially what Samson Mao was referencing. We covered this a couple days ago on Sunday's episode of essentially, you know, we've told you this, guys, many times, right? We're not living there. Like, this isn't a kinetic war. This is an information war. This is a war for people's minds. And you have the mainstream mainstream media propaganda arm, right? They're freaking out. They're having a meltdown because Bitcoin's becoming legal tender in El Salvador. And here's a headline by The Economist. President Nayib Bukele, a 40-year-old populist, is threatening the fragile democracy that was built up in El Salvador over 30 years of peace. You know, we covered on Sunday why that's a crock of BS. But anyways, Phil, excellent meme. I think it's a good meme for the times, right? And because of that, I'm gonna give it my custom phone case printer thing. Focus. It's not focused. Anyways, tough luck, guys. Phil, what about you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that is definitely a great meme. Okay. And I think that meme fixes things. And based on that, I am going with my screwdriver.
Oh, man, you can never go wrong with the screwdriver. Anyways, I'm very curious to think what our guest would give that meme.
I am going to give that meme the anti-aircraft fire. Is it an award?
Man, I'm going to have so much fun editing that. But yes, it's definitely an award.
It makes me think of the saying that, like, the flak is heaviest when you're directly over the target. Mm-hmm. And so, like, if you're not getting criticized, like, maybe, you know, you're not working hard enough, I think. It's,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
words.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely right. I love that. You know, that you're right over the target is, you know, when you know you're doing it right. So absolutely, and I think Nayib Bukele is right over the target. But we're gonna speak about him soon on the Daily News. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
Crypto Cloaks.
Desde septiembre, el Bitcoin será una moneda legal en nuestro país, junto al dólar. Usar Bitcoin no es obligatorio. Tendrás la opción de pagar y cobrar con Bitcoin o dólares. Todas las transacciones en efectivo, los precios, los salarios y las pensiones seguirán siendo en dólares. Tendrás la opción de usar gratis la wallet del gobierno para hacer transacciones en Bitcoin o en dólares, a cualquier hora y sin comisión. También puedes usar cualquier otra wallet para tus transacciones. Con nuestra wallet, recibirás un bono en Bitcoin equivalente a $30 para tu consumo. Tendrás la opción de pagar en dólares o Bitcoin desde tu celular, sin tener que tocar dinero o firmar vouchers. Y quien te cobre tampoco tendrá que tocar dinero ni tarjetas, ni pagar comisión por la transacción. También tendrás la opción de enviar y recibir remesas a cualquier hora, sin comisiones. Usar Bitcoin es fácil y es opcional. Gobierno de El Salvador.
freaking incredible. What? Man, I wish my country came up with an ad like that. What are you going to say, Phil?
Did you happen to see that thread? There was like this disingenuous BSV shitcoiner that was like trying to explain how like we all got it wrong and Bitcoin isn't actually legal tender in Venezuela, and we actually like I actually went and just I'm sorry, in El Salvador, and I actually went and had to go and find the definition of legal tender and paste it in the thread and be like, here you go, man.
They're
it's like in his mind, in his mind, okay, in his mind, the government, for whatever reason, if they're not forcing you to use Bitcoin only, then that's a failure for Bitcoin, and that's why you should have invested in BSV and their bigger blocks.
Man.
It's like, I don't understand these people. Like, how did they come up with this shit?
Bro.
Anyways, that it just made me think of that because I'm watching this, and this is such a well-made commercial. And I'm not just saying this because, I'm happy about Bitcoin. It seems like they're giving objective messaging. It seems like they're being informative. It's not coming across as totalitarian, psychotic rhetoric to force you into a financial prison.
Well, so that's what the mainstream media would want you to believe, right? Is that, they're pushing this rhetoric like this is forced upon the people, but this commercial referenced multiple times. I didn't get the time to translate. It said multiple times you will have the choice to essentially opt out if you don't want to. If you don't want to use Bitcoin, right, you don't have to use Bitcoin. You can continue using the dollar like nothing happened, right? So again, there you have the mainstream media essentially trying to push on this message that this is being forced upon the people of El Salvador, like as if it's a cost to them. And you also have to understand that a huge percentage of the GDP of El Salvador, or the economy of El Salvador, is literally spent on people sending fees for Western Union. So like again, like the mainstream media would want to focus on, Bitcoin because it's a threat to the status quo rather than Bitcoin is a solution. It's a major solution for the people of El Salvador. And I might add, this law, right, it wasn't just forced on by a dictator. This was, voted on because they have a democracy, right? So it's just crazy. But anyways, that's not going to stop the powers that be for attacking Nayib Bukele, and I love how we reacted. We also covered this on Sunday's episode, right? The IMF tweeted privately issued, Bitcoin and shitcoin assets, crypto assets. I love how they don't call it cryptocurrencies, they call it crypto assets. They just want to know. They want you to know it's not a currency. Like Bitcoin, come with substantial risk, making them equivalent to a national currency in an inadvisable shortcut. It sounds like a threat. And Bukele responded with a teardrop. Man, that's the president. That's awesome. Anyways, moving on. These are some pictures of essentially, like, I guess the ATM stations. I guess, they'll teach people, in those little booths. I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll definitely cover it when it becomes legal tender, September 7th. It's coming soon. But this headline came out today, which is why I wanted to cover this, Phil. El Salvador's Democratic Assembly approves 100 million Bitcoin trust.
Queda aprobada la ley de creación de fideicomiso Bitcoin.
The deputies of the Finance Commission of the Legislative Assembly of El Salvador agreed Monday to create a $150 million Bitcoin trust to facilitate exchange between Bitcoin and US dollars in El Salvador. The El Salvador minister, this is the signal, there's a lot of noise, this is a signal. Maria Luisa Jaime Breve reportedly said that there is a possibility of increasing the initial $150 million allocation. Please increase it. We have several teams in the territory to show the population how to use the Chivo wallet. We have developed a friendly application so that El Salvadorians could learn how to use Bitcoin, the minister said. So again, I see this, man, this is insane, because what they're essentially doing with the Chivo app, Phil, is that if you sell dollars, the government is buying Bitcoin. So that's a hedge, essentially. It's crazy. They want to keep that within the ecosystem, and the way that they're incentivizing the people, their citizens, right, is by having those commissions at zero. Right, so you're definitely going to get a better deal than using any type of foreign exchange, right? And I suspect that when this becomes a success, and we'll know this within, the next halving cycle, the next 4 years, right? I suspect that a lot of countries in Central America and South America are going to follow suit. Why? Because a huge percentage of their economies also, rely on remittances, and Bitcoin essentially solves that problem, right? Instead of paying that 30% tax, now you're paying less than a percent. It's phenomenal. But anyways, Phil, what are your thoughts? And then I want to get Mr. SeedSigner's thoughts.
Yeah. So didn't Jack Mallers help them out with that wallet?
He did, yes.
He did, right? So anybody who's actually used the Strike app knows how easy that app is to use. So yeah, I am. You know what? I'm excited and curious to hear the feedback about the user experience from the Chivo wallet, because if LN Strike, if the way that LN Strike was made, if that is any indicator, I think it's going to be a really, really, like, a landslide success, to be honest, because it's going to be simple. It's not going to require a big learning curve, and that really helps people get into the swing of things really fast.
Absolutely. What's that word that you don't like? Seamlessness? It's seamless.
Yeah, seamlessness. That is such business speak.
But it's true. I'm expecting for it to be seamless. But I'm going to shut up. Mr. SeedSigner, what are your thoughts on this amazing news, this historic news?
So first off, I want to echo what you were saying about Strike app. Like, that is an amazing experience as a user of that app. I use it myself virtually every day. Like, I pay my daughter an allowance using the Strike app. She's got like a Blue wallet on her. She doesn't have an iPhone. She has an iPod Touch, but she has Blue wallet installed on that. If she cleans her room or blah, 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 like, I'll pull out the Strike app and send her $1 there or whatever. So she gets that, like, experience of instantaneous money going from one device to another. It's like, it is magical. And what I can say about the whole situation in El Salvador. So I've been in the Bitcoin space, not in my current capacity, but just as kind of like a Bitcoiner since 2013. And this is kind of the culmination of things that people have been talking about for years that have always seemed so far away, like the argument that Bitcoin is going to help people who rely on remittances for a large part of their living, or that it's going to help people whose local currency is being devalued or debased. And so this is kind of like the rubber hits the road moment, and I'm super excited because I think it's going to be a great experience for the people of El Salvador, that like once they start experiencing the number go up technology and they start experiencing the seamlessness of being able to move sats around on the Lightning Network, you don't have to fumble with, metal coins anymore or exchanging paper. You can just zap something from one phone to another. And then if you decide to keep, part of your savings in that same unit of account, you're going to find that your wealth like slowly grows over time, that's an amazing feature. I think this is a huge opportunity in a positive direction, and people are going to look back on this as like the first real place where Bitcoin was able to prove its value, as a monetary network.
Absolutely. And there's some cosmic justice to it as well, right? Because El Salvador, unfortunately, economically, it's one of the poorest countries, and it's one of the countries that least benefits from the legacy financial system. So in a way, right, it's awesome that one of the countries to benefit, the first, right, is going to be El Salvador, right? One of the countries to least benefit from the legacy system. And I suspect it's going to be bottom up, because I suspect the Western countries that most benefit from the legacy system are going to be one of the last countries to adopt Bitcoin, because they have the most to lose, or at least their governments do. But anyways, I want to talk about, and this is why we brought Mr. SeedSigner today. I say it, maybe this is a big, say, but I see it as the future of hardware wallets, right? And that is essentially a do-it-yourself, stateless signing device. And, you could use it for multi-sig. It's awesome. And the reason that I say it's kind of the future, right, is because it solves a lot of the trust issues that hardware wallets have today. For example, if you're buying a cold card, at the end of the day, it has a good reputation, but you are trusting a private company, right? If you buy a SeedSigner, you're buying, essentially parts that you could buy on Amazon. You could build a SeedSigner yourself, and at the end of the day, it is open source software. So anyone who's looking at the GitHub repository, right, it's again open source software is better, right? I know that Cold Card is open source or software, but I know that their secure element is not open source. So there's an element of trust there, and not to mention the man in the middle attack. If anyone essentially, they have mitigations to it, but they're not perfect solutions, right? So anyways, I thought this is the reason why I invited Mr. SeedSigner. I saw this tweet and I just had a eureka moment. I'm going to pull it up. It's by Shishi, right? He says, exchanges, Lightning Strike has removed fees, hardware wallets, SeedSigner is removing costs plus side supply chain risk. Custody Spectre wallet is making easier to use multisig. Right, so lending still in development, but reliable peer-to-peer will be accomplished, right? And just to kind of, pull up the SeedSigner website, right? Here's kind of like a visual of what a SeedSigner is, right? It's a Raspberry Pi Zero. You're going to say something?
Yeah, no, I just realizing that I have every part except for the screen. Okay.
That's when Phil's a Bitcoiner. He has all this stuff just laying around. A Raspberry Pi Zero, a WaveShare 1.3-inch LCD hat with a 240 by 240 pixel display, a Pi Zero compatible camera module, and a micro SD card with at least 4 gigabyte capacity. Remember, guys, if you buy all these parts, right, on Amazon, Amazon doesn't know what you're going to be using them for, right? So again, this is... like, if you're very privacy centric, remember the Ledger hack that we covered on this show, right? Ledger just, dumped everyone's names, everyone's addresses, right? If you buy a SeedSigner, right, and you're just buying the parts on Amazon, no one's going to know what those parts are for, right? So again, there's no perfect solutions, but I think, in my opinion, it is a great solution. And not to mention, I'm going to double back to the statelessness of this device. The device doesn't save your seed. Right, so they're essentially, if anyone gets a hold of your SeedSigner, they're just getting their hands on like an empty device. I don't know if that's the correct vocabulary, but there's nothing there to steal, right? So you just have to worry about essentially securing your seed properly, right? And again, when you want to recover your wallet, I was hearing she talked to me about this last night. They have like a maybe SeedSigner, you could elaborate a little bit on this, but the QR recovery function.
Right. I think what you're referencing is when you use SeedSigner to input a seed into the device, or even another feature the device has is if you've generated the first like 11 or 23 words of a seed on your own using, meat space entropy, like you've just cut all the words and put them into a hat, or if you're using like Seed Picker does, like a kind of dice and ticket system, whatever you use, if you bring the first 11 or 23 words, one of the things SeedSigner does is allows you to calculate the last word of a seed phrase, which people may or may not know operates as kind of a checksum against the words that precede it. So if you do that and you input a seed into SeedSigner, it brings up this really slick interface that one of our developers named Keith came up with that allows you to, you can download a PDF from our repo and it print it out, and it's basically a template for a QR code. And then you can use a Sharpie and step through a grid kind of on the interface to where it breaks that larger QR code down into smaller sections. And with a Sharpie, you can just kind of recreate that QR code manually, not having to worry about saving it on your phone or even using a printer that might somehow retain like the information in memory. With a very manual process that really only takes 5 or 10 minutes, you can then have a QR. And the whole point of this is like one of the pain points of SeedSigner. I don't know if I call it a pain point, but putting 24 words in a SeedSigner takes a few minutes. So it's a convenient sort of feature such that instead of every time you want to power the device on, you have to enter the words because it's stateless, you can instantaneously enter the words if you have that seed QR code to just scan with the camera and bring the words in all at once.
Absolutely. And you know what? So the first time I heard about it, I'll be honest with you, I was kind of hesitant because, you learn something new for the first time. You're like, but what about the cold card? But the longer it sat with me, right, and, I love the idea that it's stateless, right? And it kind of solves an issue, right? If someone gets a hand of your cold card, right, there's a physical security element. NVK likes to, say like it's a very physically secure device. If anyone gets their hands on it, it's actually extremely hard to hack, but it's not impossible. That's the thing. With the SeedSigner, right, you only really have to worry about where you're storing your seed, right? So it's instead of having two problems, right, which is where am I storing my cold card, my Trezor, my ledger, right, and where am I storing your seed, SeedSigner takes away where am I storing my hardware wallet. In fact, you could just leave it on top of your desk. I don't recommend that, but, it doesn't really increase the risk. Am I wrong in saying that, Mr. SeedSigner?
No, I don't want to. I don't want to knock like a secure element technology, and honestly, it's just a security trade-off that people, everybody makes choices, and it's a security trade-off. Keeping your seed on that device within the secure element facilitates a more convenient way to access your seed. So if you and a relative amount of security too. So if you're someone who's doing frequent transactions and frequent spends on the Bitcoin network, something with a secure element where you have a shortcut that's like a numeric pin that you can use to access the seed on the device, that's an acceptable trade-off if you're making lots of transactions. If you're primarily a Bitcoin saver, or you're only making relatively infrequent transactions that are more like large when you have life expenses to account for, like I think something like the SeedSigner makes a lot of sense because as you were saying, with any of these devices, any of the hardware wallets, what's the first thing they all have you do is write down the seed phrase. So regardless, you have to guard that seed phrase. Put it in a safe deposit box, put it in a safe at home, keep it with a trusted relative, whatever you decide to do, we all have to safeguard that seed phrase. And then the hardware wallet handles the signing functions, and it also offers you this kind of convenience feature of quicker access to your seed that's being kept in a relatively secure way on the device. I think that answers kind of what you were getting at, yeah?
Absolutely. Phil, more important question. When are you going to build one?
Very soon, actually. When we're done the show, I'm going to go take a look at how much it costs for the screen. I have like 3 or 4 screens, but I don't think any of them are the right one here. But yeah, I do plan on building one pretty soon.
So if I can jump in on there, just
Yeah.
for the benefit of anyone who's listening, WaveShare is the company that makes the screens. They actually make multiple screens that look very similar to the one that we use. Anybody who's looking to buy one, just make sure it's that 240 by 240 pixels, because that will ensure that you get the right one for our software.
So we will put the link down the link description of all the correct parts, guys, so you don't make any mistakes. And we'll also put SeedSigner's website so you could check it out. And, I'm sure it has a very thorough instructions on how to build one. Man, I honestly think, and I said this in the beginning, I'm going to reiterate it. I think this is the future of cold storage solutions because it's stateless, right? I love that, and I think that it really solves, right, this huge element of trust that you have to place on hardware wallet companies. I think what you're developing, right, solves that completely.
Can I jump in with a couple more thoughts?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thought is, like, I totally hear what you're saying about privacy and that being important. There's a lot of people that don't want to sort of signal to the world around them that they're interacting with the Bitcoin community for privacy reasons, because they're trying to protect their coins. They're trying to protect the value that they're accruing. But I'd also point out that, like, there are several countries around the world that are either neutral, unfriendly, or actively opposed to Bitcoin. I think we're going to start to see more of that in China with the mining ban. China definitely doesn't want their citizens accumulating Bitcoin because it threatens their ability to manipulate the economy with their own currency. So people in these places may not be able to just jump on Amazon and order a Trezor, or go to the cold card website and order a cold card to have shipped to their house. And even if they could, they wouldn't want to do that because state actors around them, might look in the package that's coming to their house, or might, you get what I'm trying to say, is people don't necessarily want to signal their intention to interact with the Bitcoin network. But what something like our project does is allows people in, relative secrecy and privacy to be able to order these components that are not immediately recognizable as having anything to do with Bitcoin, and then get them into their, private space of their home and build a device that's actually like a pretty, when you combine it with Sparrow or Spectre Desktop, it's a very capable long-term secure storage solution. And if I could kind of just step back, a lot of people might be looking at this thing and wondering, like, what does this do? Like, what would this do for me? What can I do with that thing? I try to kind of frame it as you can think of it as a Swiss Army knife for Bitcoin. So primarily, like, three categories that it allows you to do is, one, to very securely generate private keys using ideally meat space inputs, like I was saying, either picking names out of, picking the BIP39 words out of a hat, or using some sort of other system, using meat space inputs to create privately and independently a private key that is yours and yours alone. So first, private key creation. Second, it's going to help you set up either a single SIG, or even more importantly, a multi-sig wallet setup. We support Spectre Desktop, Blue Wallet vaults, and then Sparrow, like I was saying. Those are the three primary, but we also operate on the UR2 standard, so any other wallet that uses that standard, we should be compatible with as well. So first, generate your keys. Second, set up a multi-sig wallet or a single sig wallet. And then third, you can actually use the device with your seed phrase in it to sign transactions and make spends using one of those wallet software options. I'll point out that, like we've kind of alluded to before, when you enter your seed phrase into the device, whether it's by entering, the 12 or 24 words, or by using that seed QR code, the seed phrase is not written to the micro SD card. It just exists as a variable in memory, in the Java code. And we've also taken additional steps in the built image to prevent, like, if people get too deep into the technical details, hardware caching, so that, like, the page file might occasionally be cached back to the memory card. We've disabled virtual paging to try to prevent that from happening. We're also working on some other features that are going to increase people's confidence that their private key is just in memory and not being somehow leaked onto the micro SD card. But anyhow, back to what I was saying, when you transfer the QR codes, which is the mechanism by which SeedSigner communicates to Spectre Wallet or Sparrow, will say. Like Sparrow Wallet is going to show a sequence of animated QR codes, and the onboard camera with SeedSigner is going to read those QR codes, decode the data that's in them, and assemble it back up into a coherent partially signed Bitcoin transaction. The details of the partially signed transaction are going to be displayed on the screen, so you can verify what address it's being sent to, how much is being sent, what the fee is, all of that information. And then you can either decline to sign it, or you can choose to sign it with the key that you've entered into the device. I just want to emphasize to people, the key is not communicated back to the wallet software. The device itself just cryptographically demonstrates that it knows the key and inserts that signature back into the partially signed transaction, which then, after you've added the signature, a sequence of QR codes is going to be shown on the little screen you can see in the middle of the device. You flip the device around, show it to your computer's webcam, and it communicates basically that you know the private key back to the wallet software, which makes it possible to then, broadcast the transaction and have it get into the mempool and ultimately be confirmed. I hope I didn't get into the technical weeds too much with that, but I just kind of wanted to give people who are watching and listening kind of an overall idea of what this does and how it works.
No, absolutely, and I know that Passport, right, has a very similar solution. They're
Right.
they're a traditional hardware wallet company, but they also take advantage of the QR code to essentially show the wallet, whatever, that you actually own those keys of which you're signing with. And I just want to give everyone a heads up, when we say stateless, that means that when you turn off the device and you turn it back on, it's like as if nothing like it's a brand new thing, right? So you could use it for multiple different seeds, right? And you could just have one device, and
I'd throw in that we're stateless in terms of seeds. In our most recent update, we have added the ability to add some settings to the device. So if you want to set your QR code density, or you're always going to be working with Spectre or Sparrow, you can save those settings on the device. So it's not stateless in the purest sense, but your keys are never saved to the device. That's really something that is a hallmark of our project, and so I want to emphasize that as well. I'll also throw out that Spectre Desktop has their own version of kind of this stateless wallet that's called a Spectre DIY. You can find a link in their GitHub repo, but I have to give them a shout out. They were the inspiration for SeedSigner. And yeah, I can see that you're showing one there too. It's an awesome device, big fan of it. And it was, like I said, it's what inspired me to start working on this.
And that's one of the beauties of Bitcoin, right? Is that people build on top of each other, right? And that's one of the beauties of open source as well, right? Is that you get an idea and you have the technical know-how. You could potentially make your own wallet based on what exists, right? So super awesome. Again, I really think this is the future. I'm really excited to see where this goes. And Phil, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm just excited to build one. You know what? No, okay, forget it. I thought I had a good one, but oh no, wait, I did. It had to do with the trade-offs, okay? I noticed that only Bitcoiners talk about trade-offs, right? Bitcoiners, they talk about trade-offs, okay? And to me, that is an objective way of looking at this. Whereas anytime you listen to shitcoiners, you never hear about trade-offs. You always hear about all the bells and whistles, how amazing this thing is. You never actually hear about any trade-off. So, you know what? To me, that's signal.
That is signal. A lot of noise, but this is the signal, guys. And I'm calling it now. This is the third time. I really think this is the future of multi-sig storage, because it's minimal trust. I'll say that. But anyways, Phil, it's not time for anything. There's a software release today. Why don't you show everybody?
Software releases. And it just so happens, right, that we've got Spectre Do-It-Yourself 1.6.0 that was released, and that is a do-it-yourself hardware wallet, not just a desktop wallet. And I have one here, and there you go. Yeah, it's my own little stickers on it. They don't come with the fancy little Lucio Paletti stickers. Anyways, it's down below in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. I should have switched the software release from yesterday. We should have done the Spectre yesterday.
I know.
SeedSigner today. I timed that wrong. I apologize, guys. But anyways,
who cares?
guys, before we go, I want to give a shout out to our awesome guest. You can give him you could first check out his website, SeedSigner.com, and then definitely go give him a follow on Twitter for I don't know, to keep up to date with SeedSigner stuff. You can go follow his Twitter at SeedSigner, Sorry, we usually don't do the show in the mornings or in the noons. We usually do it at night. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show, definitely smash that like button. And if you want to continue hearing the catastrophic fails from the fiat economists, the shitcoiners, central bankers, and the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective, definitely consider subscribing. And we'll see you. No, there's 2 episodes tomorrow, guys. Another episode of Simply Bitcoin.
We're getting confused.